The glass eye. You can play a lot of tricks with a glass eye because you can take it out and pop it back in again anytime you like. You can bet your life Mrs. Twit knew all the tricks. One morning she took out her glass eye and dropped it into Mr. Twit's mug of beer when he wasn't looking. Mr. Twit sat there drinking the beer slowly. The froth made a white ring around the hairs around his mouth. He wiped the white froth onto his sleeve and wiped the sleeve on his trouser. "You're plotting something," Mrs. Twit said, keeping her back turned so he wouldn't see that she'd taken out her glass eye. "Whenever you go all quiet like that, I know very well you're plotting something." Mrs. Twit was right. Mr. Twit was plotting away like mad. He was trying to think of a really nasty trick he could play on his wife that day. "You'd better be careful," Mrs. Twit said, "because when I see you starting to plot, I watch you like a wombat." "Oh, shut up, you old hag," Mr. Twit said. He went on drinking his beer, and his evil mind kept working away on the latest horrid trick he was about to play on the old woman. Suddenly, as Mr. Twit tipped the last drop of beer down his throat, he caught sight of Mrs. Twit's awful glass eye staring up at him from the bottom of the mug. It made him jump. "I told you I was watching you," cackled Mrs. Twit. "I've got eyes everywhere, so you better be careful." The frog. To pay her back for the glass eye and the beer, Mr. Twit decided he would put a frog in Mrs. Twit's bed. He caught a big one down by the pond and carried it back secretly in a box. That night, when Mrs. Twit was in the bathroom getting ready for bed, Mr. Twit slipped the frog between the sheets. Then he got into his own bed and waited for the fun to begin. Mrs. Twit came back and climbed into her bed and put out the lights. She lay there in the dark, scratching her tummy. Her tummy was always itching. Dirty old hags like her always have itchy tummies. Then, all at once, she felt something cold and slimy crawling up over her feet. She screamed. "What's the matter with you?" Mr. Twit said. "Help!" said Mrs. Twit, bouncing about. "There's something in my bed!" "Oh, I bet it's a giant skillywiggler. I saw it on the floor just now," Mr. Twit said. The what?" screamed Mrs. Twit. "Oh, I tried to kill it, but it got away," Mr. Twit said. "It's got teeth like screwdrivers." "Help!" screamed Mrs. Twit. "Save me, it's all over my feet." "Oh, it'll bite off your toes," said Mr. Twit. Mrs. Twit fainted. Mr. Twit got out of bed, fetched a jug of cold water and poured the water over Mrs. Twit's head to revive her. The frog crawled up from under the sheets to near the water. It started jumping about on the pillow. Frogs love water. This one was having a great time. When Mrs. Twit came to, the frog had just jumped onto her face. This was not a nice thing to happen to anyone in bed at night. She screamed again. "By golly, it is a giant skillywiggler," Mr. Twit said. "It'll bite off your nose." Mrs. Twit leapt out of bed and flew downstairs and spent the night on the sofa. The frog went to sleep on her pillow.